Good morning, everybody. Uh, like I said, naming things is difficult. Um, I chose to name this with spaces in it, and so the NX command has got spaces in it. Um, and Michael, thank you for sending the stuff over this weekend. It was really helpful. I made the decision last minute this morning, so we're kind of jumping blind into an experiment this morning. Um, but I'm really excited about the signal form stuff. And I'll be honest, I've only ever played around with it. And if you guys are curious, let's see what we can do with signal forms and see. I don't know. Maybe we'll start with like a simple to do app and see what we can do with that. Uh, I do want to throw some Zod at it. I do want to start with like some Daisy UI and stuff like that, um, and some other fun things that we can mess around with as we get going. Um, However, because of my choice of naming, um, we're gonna have to we're gonna have to make some changes to our WebStorm. Well, not WebStorm. WebStorm's fine. We're gonna have to make some changes to our project.json for NX. Um, so let's take a look at that. Go ahead and close that. Project.json. So right here we've got this. We've got this stupid signal forms experiment. It's not NX's fault that I chose to name things weird. It's my fault that we're having to get in and mess around with this. Um, so we're gonna have to go in and change things up just to make sure. Just to make sure that things will serve. Um, you know what? Let's just find signal forms experiments and do a replace with signal dash forms dash experiment. Um, is it not finding these? Signal forms experiments. Zero results. Did I spell something wrong? Let's do this instead. Copy that. And we will replace it with dashes. And we'll tell it, hey, just replace all these. We're just going to get rid of the ability for spaces to cause problems. We're also going to search everywhere. Yeah. It wouldn't be one of my streams if I didn't mess something up in the first 5 minutes, right? Um, protected title. Actually, I don't care about this one. These are all in V. These are all in the README. You know what? We should make sure that the README is up to date. Um, Get the README up to date. Am I on my normal mic? I sound different. I am on my normal mic. I'm curious. I'm curious what's going on. I've had some stuff updated, just software wise on my computer. I have to go listen back and see what's changed. Um, so these are in V. These are Playwright NX. Let's fix this one. And so the NX welcome component, that's all fine, and those are all V. Okay. It should serve now. Let's see if that works. So like I'm accidentally using, let me just check. No, it's definitely my Yeti microphone. Let me check the properties on this. So oh, I'm getting in a lot of echo. Hmm. It so when I use this mic, I can put it in monitor mode. It's really tough. Um, Down mix to mono, no. Um, so I've got all of these. Those are all looking good. The echo is now it's echoing, right? That's what I'm trying to fix. Let's see. Um, let's go here. Let's edit my filters. What if I turn off my expander? Let's see what that does for us. Okay. Ooh. What is it causing? Let's get that one over there. Let's go here. Edit my filters. Well, that got worse. How about now? Holy crap. How about now? So this mic on weird. How about now? Holy crap. Okay. Um that was a fun new one. Streamlabs updated recently. And so when I'm looking at my audio, and let me just verify that everything's okay again. By turning on my monitor. So yeah, much better. Okay. So weird. Let's go ahead. No, not properties. Let's grab my filters. And if I turn this one back on, okay, better. Man, so when Streamlabs updated, what happened was it actually switched to the mic I've got right here. And that mic is sitting right next to my headphones. And it's causing a weird, messed up echo. Let me turn off the monitor stuff now. Okay. Thank you for that, Michael. I apologize for that, everybody. That was really messy and not fun. So I had the mic, and when I'd push it in, you guys would hear that weird echo start, and as I would pull it out closer to my mouth, things got better. This mic is definitely not as good as my Yeti mic, obviously. Thanks for calling that out, Michael. What a mess. Anyway, let's see. Does the serve work now? This should work because now, no. Did I not save everything? That should be saved. Let's just go up here and files, save all. Now let's see if it will serve. There we go. I missed saving something. But now that we've saved it, that all works. Let's see, this should. Where is that one? There's the demo. No, that's the demo from the NGRX toolkit. come on. Can I not make this wider? I mean, it's localhost 4200, but I thought I had one up here. There's that one. There's that one. There's that one. Primitives. Oh, you know what? It was the demo. Never mind. If we go to localhost, 4200. There we go. We've got our signal forms up and running, which is good. After a little bit of just getting off in the weeds. What do I think about track B? Track B. What do you mean by track B? I'm curious about that. Did I miss something? I must be missing something here. My mind is still focused on oh. So track by index is often it's often not the right way to go. Analog. That's for the Vite stuff. Interesting. So we're borrowing analog to do Vite and Angular. I hadn't realized that. We're going to just grab a bunch of this stuff and upgrade it also. So this stuff is all good. We'll do that. I don't know about JS DOM. I'm going to leave that alone. And we'll do that. And I'm not going to upgrade zone because we're going to go zoneless right away. So that'll be one of the first things we do. We aren't doing SSR today. I don't want to get too deep down that rabbit hole. Oh, I also didn't add PNPM approved builds. My daughter just let. Oh. Hi. So my little pup, my daughter just let her in because she's just been sitting outside my door. And she wanted to come say hi. Yeah, that's true. So in the corner of my office, there's a chair that she likes to sit in, and my wife is just reminding me that I locked her out of that chair, and so she just likes to be in my office and hang out with me. So npm install. Actually, we're going to terminate this, and we're going to do no frozen lock file like we're supposed to. She's a sweetie. She is a little golden doodle, and she has all the tendencies of golden doodles. But she's a sweetie. She just likes to be a part of the family. So There we go. It looks like everything is up and going. We're ready to do signal forms. I want to do a couple of things first. Before we get into signal forms. So I do want to install some NGRX signals. And so I think I can go here and do Tailwind and no. I know I've got the Tailwind stuff in here. Let's get Daisy UI and Tailwind in. So let's go ahead and grab generate the Narwhal Angular, set up Tailwind. So we'll go ahead and copy this. We'll paste it. And we need to, actually that's fine. NPX will be fine here. NPX will, okay, pnpm exec nx at narwhal / angular set up - tailwind. Oh, I'm missing the generate on this. So with reactive forms, I learned recently to track by the reactive form control. I used to just be lazy and use index, but with form arrays, that was actually causing subtle but serious issues. The signal forms, I don't know. So when you do track by index, you're really in an array. Anytime anything in that array changes index, the track by index doesn't really do what people think it does. How do I not have? Is this old? It's no longer narwhal. It's nx. Yep, that's the problem. And my npx command would have worked also. I just wasn't reading. So this is added Tailwind. So now if we do pnpm exec nx serve, and we go up here. So we should see some stuff has changed. Our Tailwind is now in place. So the next piece to look at is Daisy. Do Daisy. It's really simple once we're here. Installing Daisy is just a matter of adding the Daisy package. Yeah, index is safer. I would think so that for the most part that they would be closer, but I think tracking by unique field of the control may be more identifiable, and that's the right way to that's the right way to think about it. Is when you're tracking by index,
it actually causes a lot more re-renders and things like that than you would expect, um, because the index of the array can change, and anytime that changes, it's going to cause re-renders across whatever you're tracking by index. Tracking by index is kind of an anti-pattern in Angular now. So instead of tracking by index, we need to find something that we can track by. This is definitely something that I want to dig into with you guys also as we get into this. All right, so got Daisy installed. Let's see if I can nx serve. Let's see if Daisy is working. There might be some stuff that we have to do with Daisy. I don't want to spend too much time. Daisy is not working. I know why Daisy isn't working. I haven't added Daisy. So I need to get into the CSS and I need to import Daisy UI. Let's go here. Go into our app.css. Where's my Tailwind stuff? Here it is. And I'm in the old style of Tailwind. So if we look, the Daisy, and we just need to do this. Let's hope that this works. How is it's weird that it didn't grab. It must only grab the highlighted portion. So we just need to add import tailwind.css. And then let's go ahead and could not resolve Tailwind CSS. Oh, am I on the old version of Tailwind? Is that my problem here? If you look at package JSON, I think I'm on the old version of Tailwind. Yeah, I need to upgrade Tailwind. So let's go ahead and yeah. So pnpm exec nx migrate. And here we can do Tailwind CSS, post CSS, and auto prefixer. And this should migrate us to the latest on all of these. And everything else I don't really care about. Let's go take a look. My package JSON. Let's take a look at my Tailwind. No, that didn't work. Oh, that's unfortunate. I was hoping I could do a bunch of comma separated stuff, but I didn't think it would work because it didn't do anything. So, hey, Marcus, how's it going, man? We're just trying to get everything set up so that we can start actually doing some signal form stuff. So did that fix it? That did fix it. Okay, so that fixed Tailwind. So the other ones that we were doing were post CSS and auto prefixer. So, and what we could actually do, I didn't even need to do the migrate. Yeah, that works. There's not going to be migrations for Angular for Tailwind and post CSS and all of that. Oh man, how is Angular Connect, Marcos? Marcus. I've got Marcos on the brain because I just finished watching The Expanse, and they keep saying Marcos Inaros over and over in that one. Yeah, you Europeans are tripping over conferences. I agree. I actually won't even be at NGConf this year. So that's that's unfortunate. I would love to be at NGConf. There's just not a way for me to do it this year. Okay. So it looks like you're trying to use Tailwind directly as a PostCSS plugin. The PostCSS plugin has moved to a separate package, so to continue using Tailwind with PostCSS, you'll need to install Tailwind PostCSS and update your PostCSS configuration. Oh yes, pnpm install at Tailwind CSS post CSS, and we'll save that as a dev dependence. So now we've got Tailwind post CSS in there. And at this point, don't we remove the Tailwind? Okay, so I need to do the pnpm approve builds so that it can run the Oxide stuff. The approved build stuff is actually a little bit scary for me anymore with all the npm supply chain attacks that are going on out there. It's those post build events that everybody's been using that have been a bit scary. Let's go take a look at our dev directory. And inside of here, let's take a look at Tour of Heroes, because I had to do a bunch of stuff to get this working. Oh, I need the post CSS RC. That's right. So let's compare some file structures here, right? And I really want to get a new file manager. So here we've got the same stuff. Yeah, so we need the post CSS RC. Let's move this over. There's our post CSS RC. Actually, that was a bad idea. Oh no. I messed that one up pretty good. Oh no, I didn't. Let's go ahead and copy that, and then we'll paste it over here. I didn't want to move it. I wanted to copy it. And so then the post CSS RC is what we've got. And then our jest config, no, don't care about that. Package. And so then we want to go into our apps. And inside of here, well, that was stupid. Why did it do that? Where's my Tailwind config? Do I just take that out? I think that's all I do is I just remove the Tailwind config. So we'll take that out. And that should allow it to serve. So, oh man, Kathy, what are you doing? Thank you for catching that right away, Marcus. Really appreciate that. Yeah, now it serves. Now we see Daisy. I really like, I keep saying this, but it just keeps hitting home for me. So we're up and running now with Daisy UI. We've got the signal forms in place. We're at the next version of Angular. This is all running inside of NX. We added Daisy. One thing that I also wanted to look at is let's add Angular primitives. Let's go ahead and add the Angular primitives because we'll use those also. And the last thing I want to do is add NGRX signals. And then we might add the NGRX toolkit down the road, but I don't want to get stuck too much in what we're doing with the setups, right? So pnpm exec, we should be able to paste that. That'll add our Angular primitives. And then the last thing I want to do is man, I've got so many things open. Here we go. So I just want to add the signals. We can add these with NX. And the other one that I want to add is we could add these. I'm going to skip that today because usually I would do it in a bigger project. I want to dig in and let's actually build some forms. So we've got our primitives installed. So the last thing we want to do is we just want to do an NX add of NGRX signals. So pnpm exec NX add at NGRX/signals. Ah, man. As soon as I hit this at key, it tries to autocomplete for me. And I don't care about auto-completing at the command line. Warp has some really cool MCP stuff with it. But I keep forgetting with the at sign that it's going to try to autocomplete stuff. It's not going to find stuff, and then it's going to get into their MCPs and all of that stuff. And really, all I want it to do is just install something. Okay, so this should have all the base stuff we want. We've got, oh, no, we don't. We don't. there's one last piece I want to add. I want Zod. So we're going to use the latest version of Zod. We're just going to pnpm install Zod. And that should be the last bit we need. So that will give us Daisy UI, that will give us Angular primitives, that will give us Signal Store, and we'll have Zod. And I want Zod specifically because I need to learn Zod 4. I haven't learned Zod 4 yet, so there's a little bit of personal stuff going on here. But the other thing, the other reason I want to use Zod is I want to see how Zod integrates with the Signal. The Signal stuff. Hey, Johanderson, welcome to the stream, man. So I want to see how Zod. I already said that, but is it just Zod? Yep, it is just Zod. So there we go. But what I want to do is reuse Zod for a lot of like the so Zod's big thing is that you parse, don't validate. So I want to see how we can integrate Zod parsers into the signal forms themselves. And then look at using Zod parsers to simulate like maybe backend validation and stuff like that. So yeah, let's take a look. So pnpm exec nx serve. And then I'm going to shut this down as soon as it serves. We're going to push all of this up right away, and then we're going to branch off. So there we go. Okay, so everything appears to be running well, which is great. Now's the time when we're going to break stuff. So let's go ahead and start breaking stuff. Oh, there's some stuff we want to do with Daisy, but stage all changes. Initial commit. Boom. And let's go ahead and get this pushed up to GitHub. I'm gonna add GitHub. Signal Forms experiment, remote name origin. Actually, there's one thing that I like to do before I do this. I want to rename this branch. I want this to be our main branch. That's just something I like to do. You know, there are people that care about that. I don't want to be controversial in any way, shape, or form. So we're just going to be friendly to everybody. So now we're going to push to GitHub, public access, and this is our Signal Forms experiment. So there we go. Now we should be able to view this on GitHub. Let's do that. We are now, this is now available on GitHub. Let's get this into the chat for everybody. If you guys are curious about this, here is our GitHub repo. And this is, so you can look at this as kind of a seed project if you want. It's got everything set up the way we've got it right now. So we'll go ahead and branch off of this. The branch name will be stream and September 14th. Wow. 2025. There we go. Now we've got our branch in place, all of that stuff. We're going to shut this down because the last thing we want to do is go into our editor and let's get rid of all of the NX stuff. So we're going to delete this right away. And we're going to delete it anyway. App.css. So app.html we don't care about. We'll delete that also. App routes. We'll leave that in place, but app.ts, instead of doing a template URL, we're going to do a template. And here we're just going to do a simple paragraph saying, hey, everything still works. Great. And we're going to take out all of this from the imports. And app.css is empty, so let's delete that also. Refactor that anyway. In our app.ts, instead of this, we're just going to have styles. And for right now, it's just going to be empty. We're not even using the title anymore, so we'll boom. And got a whole bunch of imports that we're no longer using. Is Prettier set up to run? Prettier. So automatic, run on save. We're going to run this for JSTS. We also want this for CSS files and JSON files also. So we're going to apply this. Okay. Oh, there's a couple other things that we want to add. So we want to add Prettier. We want to add the organized imports. And we also want Prettier organized attributes. And these are two things that that I like because they give they make my life easier. So I tend to add them to all projects. So we'll start with the organize imports. Organize imports is going to organize the imports, but it's also going to the other thing it's going to do is remove any unused imports, right? So npm install save dev Prettier plugin organize imports. Great, so we've got that in place. So now we can come here and open up our Prettier RC. And inside of here, is it in our Prettier RC? I always forget. Plugins. So you need to configure Prettier to use a plugin. Yep. Yeah. We just add it to our Prettier RC. Here we can just go plugins. And we're going to add this plugin. And we should be able to move that up. Boom. Now, if we just reformat prettier, oh, I need a comma here. Don't, oh, I can leave those in place. This isn't an actual JSON file. So that's one. The other one we want to add is organize attributes. I was hoping to copy it, but that's fine. Prettier plugin, organize attributes. So we'll go ahead and npm install save dev prettier plugin dash organize attributes. There we go. That should do that. So there we go. We've now got, oh, we need to also add the organize attributes to our prettier RC. We're not going to mess with the attribute groups. It sets things up pretty well for, it sets things up pretty well for what we want. So there we go. There's our prettier RC. So now it should be cleaning things up for us, hopefully, if everything works. Okay, so now if we go serve, everything should be working. Let's go ahead and commit this stuff too. So let's add, we added prettier formatters. And then here we removed NX defaults. NX default homepage. I don't know what to call it. It's been a while since I've called something a homepage. So if you want these changes, they're going to be on the stream September 14th branch. Otherwise, if you just want to start without the stuff that I just added, it's going to be on the main branch. So, all right, let's get into stuff, right? Actually, first let's make sure everything still works. So we're going to go here. Hey, everything still works. Great. Perfect. So let's get a form in place. And then let's get it on the page. I'm not going to worry too much about making things too pretty. You know, we can worry about that later. But for right now, we're in a good place. So, I'm trying to decide how I want to do this. Well, for right now, no, let's not do that. Let's not be lazy, right? Let's make sure that we're a really important PR was just made against your new repo. Which this repo has a really important PR. Let's go take a look. Let's go to, I'm gonna have to look at it over here on I'm gonna have to take a look at it in Chrome because I'm signed in over there. There's something going on that when I start Chrome, the indepth.dev, I've got something that's trying to hit that. And that is causing, I think their repository is out of. So here's the Signal Forms experiment public repo. Let's bring this over here really quick. Let's look at our pull requests. Add important stuff by Michael Small. Here we go. Files changed. Oh, except guess what? We don't have the NX welcome anymore. So we're gonna have to add this, Michael. Yeah. So here we go. Let's see what this cool car is, Michael. Dude, I give that to you. That's a nice car. I vote Bannon. Banning him for a rally car? That's actually a really sweet rally car. That's hilarious. Thanks, Michael. You're lucky I could trust you, man. You're very lucky I can trust you. So let's go ahead and let's add a new directory. We'll call this our components. And then we are going to use NX to generate a component. An Angular component, yes, please. The name of this component is just going to be, let's start simple, right? Actually, before we jump into this, let's go take a look. Michael shared some stuff with us today. And this is from the Angular team on, forms, a function to create a field representing the form. So we pass in a writable signal. So we can see here, they create this user profile. And then we've got this app user stuff here, right? Like this is typical form stuff. We create a signal that's a user profile signal. And we pass in the first, last name, and email, which matches the user profile, right? And then for the form, we just use this form function. And we use the signal as that. And then there's this handle submit that when the form submits, so up here we can see, oh, do we not have the template here? So here's the template, right? When the form submits, we call handle submit with an event prevent default. We're using an async handler here because we're awaiting the submit on the profile form. And we're also using an output handler that we're emitting that stuff from. And then they've got a whole bunch of other examples on how to just do different things with the forms. We're going to start with a simple to-do form, and we'll just get more complicated from there. So let's start with that. So we'll call this our to-do. And this is going to be our to-do component. And we're going to progressively get Michael agreeing that I should ban him. So this is our to-do component. It's going to be a standalone component for sure. Change detection always on push. Display block, sure. No export default, inline style, inline template always, module name, don't care. The component signal defaults to the last segment of the path, that's fine. Prefix selector, skip imports. See, this is where we could add something like component here. The current direction from the Angular team is not to do this, but we can do this with NX. I'm going to try doing it without it and see how this goes, right? So we're creating inside of components a to-do. So the components is what tells us what this is. That means that we're not going to be we're not going to be we're going to need to create some other stuff that we'll use. We're not going to be we're going to create some other stuff that we'll use. But for right now, let's get this component on the page because we just want our to-do stuff, right? So here is our to-do component. It's just an app-to-do to do it, imports that. To-do works. We're going to take out the display block. We don't want that for right now. What we do want is a host directive. So host, and not a host directive, but a host bind. And then we're going to say on this, we want our class, and the class we want on our component, we're going to add block we're going to add block from Tailwind. This is going to give us a block. And then the other thing we want to do is we want to add just a bit of a margin to it. So we're going to go like margin. We'll go margin. We'll go margin left of 2. Sounds good. I don't want to worry too much about centering things and things like that. And for now, that's going to give us, and we want a padding. We'll also give it a padding of like 1, right? That should be good. So there we go. That'll add our stuff in here. And so now when we go and serve, it doesn't work if you don't add it to the app. So in the app, everything works great. And then here we can just do app-to-do. And it wants us to import this. So we're going to import to do. So there we go. So now we should see in our form here that our to-do works. And so now we've got everything in place. So we're in an okay place. Let's get back to our forms here. And now let's actually create our form, right? So we're going to start really, really simple, and we're going to build up from here. So the first thing we should do is decide on, you know, the type that we're going to use for our forms. And we can close this too. So here we want a type, and this will be our to-do model, we can call it, equals. And our to-do model, well, for right now, we're going to be super simple. So our to-do model is just going to have our done, which is a Boolean, our name, right? The task name will be a string, and oh yeah, we need a task ID. This will be a number for now, and we don't need the created app, but let's add a description. And this will be a string. And we're going to start super simple, and we're going to go up from here, right? So the first thing we need to do, which we learned from we can get rid of these two. So we learned from here that the first thing we need to do when we're using signal forms is we need to define a signal that the form can use. So let's go ahead and do that. So we are going to create a protected signal and model, and this is going to be a signal. Let's import our signal. Come on. Okay. That is interesting. Wait, isn't Signal on Angular Core? If I look at this, yeah. So Signal is on Angular Core. So I don't even need this. I can just go here and I can go add a signal to it. Should be fine there. So there's our signal. Our signal is going to be of type to do model equals a signal. And we're going to clean this up in the near future. Wait, why doesn't it? Oh, it helps if you protected model equals signal, and now it's going to pick up what it's supposed to be. So there we go. So now it's telling us our signal's wrong. We're going to start with done false. Eventually, we're going to create a factory that's going to create these for us. But for right now, we are going to name, the name is going to be learn signal forms. The ID, and eventually we'll have an ID generator, but for right now, the ID is 0. And then the description is going to be learn signal forms on stream and use cool things like Zod, right? So this is our eventual goal. So great, now we've got a writable signal, but it doesn't really help us too much. You know, we can, instead of doing this, we can go with like a pre-tag, right? And inside of our pre-tag, we can do our model and feed it the JSON pipe. And so now we need to import the JSON or JSON pipe. There we go. No, what am I doing? So there we go. We've got the JSON pipe in place. And so now if we take a look at it, hey, great, right? Awesome. You can put JSON on the screen. Not very helpful. So it's time to actually build something that works. And so let's build something that allows us to input this information and change it and see if we can get the binding to change, right? So if we take a look at our example, now that we've got our signal, now we just need to feed that signal into the form. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's create our form. So we're going to say protected form equals, and then we're going to pull in form. And our form is going to take in our model. It doesn't like this. Oh, I need this. Right. So there we go. So now we've got our form and our model in place, but that doesn't really get us anything. What we need to do now is create a form. And inside of our form, we need to start binding these controls. To do that, we're going to have to import control into our components. So let's go ahead and import our control here. So now we've imported control. We're not using it yet, but we can, right? We're going to now add a break there. And now we can add in our form. And the cool thing is we don't have to worry about form groups or anything like that. If we take a look at the example, really there's a submit handler if we want to submit. Otherwise, we just use control, the control directive, to bind our stuff to it. So let's go ahead and create our input, right? So we're going to have an input type equals checkbox. And our checkbox is going to have a control on it. And our control is going to be model dot. If we look, we can, or no, it's going to be form dot, and then what we want from the form is done. The form dot done is what we're going to use here. And that should give us our form binding. If we look, it's the same way here, right? So we've got the form, and notice that we're not using the signal value, we're binding to the actual signal. So if we take a look at this, in our, so now when we check this, we've already got our stuff in place, right? So our done is there, our checkbox is there, and we're on our way. Signal forms take so much of everything that we were having to do. So much boilerplate goes away once we start using these signal forms. So let's get the rest of the binding in here, right? We want the ID, the name, and the description so that we can change that stuff too. Let's go ahead and finish this out. So we also want an input. And here we're going to say placeholder equals ID. The control is going to be our form.id. And the type, we want it to be number. So there we go. And if we take a look at this, as we go here, we can see that now, hey, we've got our number import, our number stuff in place. We're going to clean this up quite a bit, but let's get everything in place, right? We can see that as we scroll up and down on this, that things are reacting appropriately. So we're in a good state here. We probably want to work with min and max values, but those are things that we're going to grab from Zod. So we're going to use Zod to validate things, and then when the values are inappropriate, we're going to and you know what? Let's instead of doing this, let's make this just a text input. And then we're going to come back in and the reason I want to do that, so here we want to say name your task, and here we're going to also input we're going to say describe your task, and this is going to be a text box input, right? So now if we take a look at things, now we can see, hey, name your task is here, describe your task is here. Everything's kind of ugly right now. Let's clean that part up. So one thing we can do is on our form, we can add a class equals flex and gap2. And that should help a bit, right? Because now there's some stuff going on here. It helps. So let's, right? So this is our first piece. We can say, hey, if we refresh this, we can see learn signal forms with Jason, well, John. Now it's Jason. And then learn signal forms. Well, we're going to do it for fun. And we can see right away that already we've got the nice two-way binding that we expect. We can already start handling things from the form. And our forms are super simple. Like if we take a look at this, just think about all the work that goes into reactive forms to get this kind of stuff up, or even template-driven forms, right? The cool thing is we aren't binding an ng model at all. This becomes very, very simple. We've just got a control, and then we're providing, typical HTML stuff. There's nothing here that's like a bunch of extra boilerplate outside of us just having to create the model that we're going to bind to, but you're going to have to do that anyway. And eventually we're going to move this into a signal store. So this stuff's going to come from a signal store. We're going to want to do like some validation and stuff like that. That stuff is going to come along in the form of Zod, which we can tie into our signals. So when these signals change, we can tie Zod into this. And then really, it's just a simple form. I mean, there's going to be other stuff when we get into validation and things like that, but it just becomes very, very simple for us to do this. And you know, the bindings are so, it's just, I look at it as a more ergonomic way of just in general, you know, working with stuff and making it nicer. So let's clean up our checkboxes and stuff. So let's go take a look at Daisy, and let's take a look at our checkbox first. So let's make our checkbox look nice. So we got our buttons, drop downs, modals, accordions. Actually, you know, one thing we should do is let's take a look at our theme for this really quick. So we added this, but we didn't add our themes, right? And this is pretty small, but here's our themes. So the cool thing is that with the new version, we don't have to really do a whole lot. So we can flip this around. We can say that our default is light, our default is dark, and we only do light if they prefer light. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're gonna go back here, and that's not the one we want. It's here, and we're gonna go to our styles.css, and we can just paste this in. So our light is going to be our prefers light, and our dark is going to be our default. So now we may have to just shut things down. Let's see. Nope, style sheet update sent to the client. So if we go back to our page here, and let's turn off dark mode, and there we go. So so for our local host, we don't have dark mode on, and it's going to default to preferring the dark mode. So that was one nice thing that we could do really, really quick, right? Get a quick dark mode theme in here. One that's been vetted by Daisy and looks good. Very, very easy to do. If you're using an older version of Daisy, this all goes into your Tailwind config.css, or not, Tailwind config.js. And there's a themes array there that you can use. So if we go back here and go back to Daisy, ooh, let's not flashbang everybody. Instead of this, we can just turn off localhost there. That's the right way to do it, not just turning off dark mode for everybody. And actually, we can even go here, and there we go. So now we can see what things will look like in dark mode because we've set our theme to dark mode. So we've got our buttons, chat bubbles. So here's our checkbox, right? So our default checkbox, just add it. We can add primaries to it. So we need to add the class checkbox to our checkbox. So we'll go ahead and do that. Here, we can just say, hey, our class. Oh. My muscle memory, so my muscle memory is now on the Mac keyboard I've been using. So I'm hitting like the wrong things all the time. It's getting a little bit frustrating. But that's okay. We'll power through it. So here's our checkbox now. It's got some interesting animations to it and things like that, which is cool. We're eventually going to be changing this into an Angular primitives checkbox. If we can get it to work, right? We might not be able to use Angular primitives. We'll have to think about that because it may not be ready to use signal forms because this binding looks like because we're using the app-dash checkbox. So it's our checkbox TS. I don't know. We'll have to take a look at that. ng new and ng generate application support Tailwind is a style option. I saw that, and that's really cool, Johanderson. We're using NX here, so I hadn't added NX, but it'll be nice when NX catches up with that one and allows us to use the the Tailwind styles here. Let's take a look. So here's our checkbox that we've got, right? And we've got all the different colors. So if we take a look at this, we've got primary, accent, neutral, info, success, warning, and error. Maybe we make our checkbox an info checkbox or a success checkbox when it's checked, just to make it look nice. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do checkbox dash success, just because we want some nice we want some nice stuff to happen when, well, some nice colorful feedback. What did I do here? That really? Oh. Yeah, that would mess it up. Changing the type to checkbox success, that would mess it up. So there we go. So now when it's checked, right? And one thing we could even do is we could only add that class when it's actually a success, but I don't care about that. One thing to realize here is like if I do test, we violated our number. So this is where we're going to pull in Zod, and this is why I went the way I did. Instead of being numeric, I want Zod to provide our validation for us. And so we're gonna take a look at that. But first of all, we've got our checkbox working. Let's get our ID working. So if we go back to this and we take a look at our and I wanted text area, not, so we'll change that other one to text area. But our inputs, data display, navigation, it's just input field, text input. So there are a couple of different types we can use. This is just the classic input, and I think that that's fine. There are other kinds of text inputs. So you can see here that they're adding like labels to it. You can see how they're doing that. So they're using a label and then the inputs. And the thing about the input is it's designed to grow. Is that not the one that's growing? I don't know. But they've got nice things like this that we could do. I don't want to deal with that too much. Ghost style is another style that you could use. Ghost style is fine, but we can use the we'll probably be using field sets to help with this. So we'll probably be using that in the near future. For right now, what we want to do is we can just make it, we can make all these class input. And then we'll worry about like the text input and stuff like that. The field sets. So you can see, you know, we've got the placeholder, we've got field sets and things. Maybe we'll add some field sets. Yeah, we can add some field sets for some of this stuff. Let's go ahead and here, this one is just going to be class equals input. And so now we can see that our form ID now behaves like we would expect it to. And it doesn't have the issues that these ones have. We're going to, we do have alignment issues going on here, which we'll fix. And we're also going to make this one much smaller and these ones bigger. So we'll fix that up too. This one is going to get our class equals input, and we'll clean these up. Well, this is where we should probably do a field set. And then move this into our field set. So if we take a look at how the field sets work in DAISY, So the field sets in Daisy, we have to add the class equals field set. We add the legend, and then we can add anything underneath it. We'll be using this for our validation messages. That's why we're doing a field set right now. And what we'll probably wind up doing is creating a control that we can drop that we can bind stuff to. But for right now, we're just going to go really, really simple. And then we'll get not better, but we'll progressively improve. So we need the class field set. We need the class field set legend. And then, our input, it's just type text class, right? So we just need the field set and the field set legend, and we're good, right? So here, inside of our field set, we go class equals field set. And then here we can add a legend. We class equals field set legend. Boom. And our legend is just going to be task name, right? And so as we do this, this is kind of not good. Inspect. What did I do? So field set. So when we look at this, this is much smaller. Field set legend. Field set legend. Oh, I've got field dash set. It's field set. It's a problem. That should allow it to work. Yeah, so now it's much smaller. Got our task name in there. We're going to need to align a lot of this stuff. We'll get that figured out. This is not text box, it's text area. You guys can tell I'm a little bit rusty, right? That's the problem with what I've been doing at work lately. I've been working quite a bit on ADRs and things like that for work, and it's crazy how quickly your coding can get a little bit rusty if you're not using it every day, right? Field set legend, that works. So there we go. Now we've got, there's an extra quote in there. Where is that extra quote? Right there. Oh, and we also need to make our text area have the text area input stuff. Let's go ahead and make sure that we grab that from Daisy. Let's go take a look at our text area. So the class that we just add is text area, and it gives us, these nice little handles and stuff like that. And you know what? Yeah, we'll turn that off for an hour. That's fine. So here's the field set again. So we just need to add the text area to our text inputs. Boom. And that's going to help this out. The reason that class is moving around is that prettier, the organize attributes. It organizes attributes and it understands Angular attributes really well. So it's going to put things in the same way all the time. So it will move them around, which, right, kind of caused a mess when I did the type and things here. But once you're used to it in your project, it's a big help. in keeping everything kind of, well, not even kind of, keeping everything similar for everybody. So we've got a whole bunch of why is my text area not working? Take a look at class is text area, type is text area. I know it's going to be something dumb. Text area. Oh, I've got an input. It's not an input. It's a class. It's a text area. And type is not text area. There we go. Wait, what? What am I doing wrong here? Text area, class equals text area. Text area. Angular doesn't like this because, oh, text area is not a self-closing tag. That's its problem. Yeah. So now we can resize this. But things are not looking great here, right? This is pretty ugly. Actually, it's very ugly. The question is, how do we want to... What I would like to do is an edit in place. But I want these to align. So let's get some alignment going on here. The first thing we can do is on this input, the ID input, we can add like a width of 1. And that should make that much smaller. That's probably too small. Let's go like a width of 2. That should be fine. That's still too small. If I go with like a width of 4. A width of 8. I mean, at this point, we're getting pretty big. Oh, there we go. Width of 8 works. Now if we do like, let's go for a width of 16. I'm just doubling, really, is all I'm doing. That's probably too big. Let's go to like a width of 12. And this one will eventually go away. But we do want something nice for people to enter in. So now if we go with 100 here, or even 1,000, well, 1,000 is probably too big. But if we've got 1,000 tasks on our to-do list, maybe it's too big. So like 99.99, it's fine. This is our first task. Great. So the rest, we'll line this up. Yeah, let's get this all lined up so that it's not this weird, like it's like this weird stepping. thing, right? And I'm not here for it. I'd much rather have at least this stuff lined up. So on our form, we can go flex, align. There is it. Let's go take a look at Daisy instead of me trying to muddle my way through it. If we go take a look at layout and typography, no. Let's just here search for flex. What is in layout and typography? Where is flex? Data input layout inside of here. No. It's in Tailwind. Tailwind is where we want to be. And text here. So if we look at flex, so flex basis, flex direction, flex wrap, flex grow, flex shrink, order. Not justify. We don't, it's not justifying, it's aligning. If we align items, so here we're aligned item start, right? Here is item center. And that we may want to do items end, potentially baseline. Let's try items baseline. Items baseline. And let's just take a look and see what we get with items baseline. That's actually better. I'm okay with that one. And I think we could even do like baseline center. Is that? Let's go back here and take a look at Tailwind. Got the baseline, the last baseline. I think baseline last is the only one we can do. Yeah, baseline last is the only one we can do. Oh, that's horrible. Very horrible. We're just going to go with baseline. The only reason I'm doing this is just to make it a little bit less ugly, but I mean, what we could do is we could do baseline center here or baseline here, and then move this below it. We'll have to think about that later. But for right now, we're in an okay space, right? But we do have some problems. Well, the first problem is like if I just come in here and type test, we're allowed to do test, right? The other thing that would be nice is if we disabled all of this, if we marked it as done. Actually, that doesn't matter. I really just want to validate this. And actually, I need to go take just a quick little break. Give me just a second here. Yeah. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that. Um, just needed a quick bio break. I've been holding it for a little bit and was like, I could either end the stream now or we could actually look into validation. So, how do we validate that this is a proper value? And that is going to require us dig a bit deeper in, right? Instead of these, the simple stuff that we're doing, we need to do some validation, right? So if we take a look at this, there are examples here. We've got some strings and numbers, and we've got these notions where we can create these schemas. And so it's a user setting schema, and within this user setting schema, we can say, hey, this is required. These have min lengths and max lengths. Right? There's a min and a max here. And then, it needs to be an email. And you can even do pattern validations and stuff like that. And then when we get in here, we set up the model and then we set up the schema. And so we're going to be doing the same thing here, and then we're going to be adding our errors in. So let's add an error for, well, here's where things get interesting. We could use a Zod validator, and we'll probably use a Zod validator in the near future. But for right now, let's go simple and then build things up, right? Like conditional validations, also an interesting idea here. And then, dynamic state on hiding things. And there's a whole bunch of really cool things, right? Conditionally disabling fields, things that have typically been difficult in the past. And then even getting into dynamic arrays are going to be interesting. But for right now, let's take a look at the validation schema and just start there. So we're going to start super simple, right? So we've got our type set up, but now we need a schema that we can pass into our settings here. These eventually, like the models and all of this stuff, will eventually be moved into Zod. And we'll use Zod to build this up and to validate forms and to validate all of that stuff. But for right now, we're just going to go super simple and follow the pattern, right? And I'm sitting here and I'm talking, and one of the things about doing like public speaking and things along those lines is they tell you to slow down and to speak with more intentionality. And you start to catch yourself using fillers. The word like is a filler. The word is a filler. The word right is a filler where I am, but it also makes what you're saying seem less strong. And here I am in my head just judging myself because I'm talking about this stuff and I'm just going, hey, we're going to do this, right? We're going to do that, right? So now you guys are hyper aware of it too. So you'll catch me doing it over and over, and I'm going to be more aware of what I'm doing, and it's just going to get more and more annoying. So let's take a look at our validators. Let's set up a schema that will validate stuff for us, and let's apply that schema. So the first thing we want to do is we want to take a look at, what's required and what's not. They're all required, but we don't need validators for like done or, well, done's really the only one we don't need a validator for. So for right now, we can say, hey, const to do schema equals, and we're going to use the new schema. Boom. We're going to use that from the signal forms. Now we've got a schema. And we want to make this schema, aware of our settings, right? So they use this, they use the generic to do that. And then it takes in a validator function. And inside of that validator function, we call the different validators on the field. So let's start by saying this is a to-do model. And then from here, now we can just say, hey, this is our form. We're following the same pattern. It's been established in their guides. And this form is just a function. It's an anonymous function. So within this function, we're going to say that, hey, form dot ID. You know what? Let's move this up. So that the only reason I'm moving it up is just so that it follows. We're going to say this is required. Form dot ID is required. We're going to import required. And you can see right now that Zod has a whole bunch of stuff in it too. We're going to use the signals required for right now. And then we're also going to say that it's got a min value of 0. And the last thing we're going to say, form.id has a min value of 0. And the last thing we can say is, hey, we want a max value on this. Let's grab max. And it'll be form.id. And we're going to say the max value is 99.99. So there we go. So now we've imported everything we need for our to-do schema. The only thing we have to do to add this schema to our form is just say, hey, schema. And it actually needs to be to-do schema. So now we've got our to-do schema added to our form. And so that's a little bit helpful, but what do we do with the errors? So if you look, there are going to be errors, and notice here that if the settings form.username.errors is greater than 0, then we're gonna output these errors. We're going to take a look at how we can do this in a much more user. Let's experiment with some stuff. So right now in this form, let's create a variable here. And we're going to say @let, and we're going to say ID errors equals, we're going to say form.id.errors. Boom. So now we've got an array of ID errors. And one thing we can do, because we've got this, we can now say, hey, we want class dot error equals, and here we can say ID errors dot length. So if we've got any errors, we're going to add the error field to, or the error class to our input field. And we're going to make this much simpler, right? But so if we inspect this now, we did add the error to it, but that's probably not the right class that we want. So our colors, no, it should be, oh, color dash error. But we want our input to have that class, right? And there I go saying right again. So inputs. So we want input dash error to be our class, not just error. And we can do that by going here. And this is going to be input dash error. I always forget when I need to add quotes or not, but class input dash error works just fine. And now if we go back and we enter like a -1, now we get an error message, right? And there I go saying right again. Or if we enter like 15, 150, we're over the amount. If we enter in test, so test does not work. That's good to know. So this isn't catching numeric. Do we have a numeric validator? So it is required. One thing we can do, we'll figure out how to get the errors onto the page. We can do it with a field set and a label. But for right now, what I want to take a look at is the schema. So we are requiring it. We do have a min and a max value. Is there the notion of a number form.id? It just says, hey, this has to be a number. No. Let's take a look here. So the validations we've got. Form.id invalid. Let's give that a shot. That's a good way to look at it too. So instead of counting the errors, form.id.invalid, because I like that better. To your point, Ole, it's a much cleaner way to do it. Yeah, number refers to a type. That was the thing that I wanted to take a look at here. If I want to specify that something has to be required min length email submit. So the keywords are pattern, Angular forms signals. Let's see if we go to Angular forms signals. So let's pull this up in a new tab. And let's go to the very, very top. Let's go to Angular. Within Angular, we're going to take a look at Angular forms. Packages is what we want, and forms and signal forms. So within our signal forms, we've got our source here. And within schema, let's take a look at schema.ts. So that's not what we want. Logic.ts. Predicates. Compute. So default value allows you to provide a default value. Boolean or array. These are not what we're looking for either. Logic node. Add hidden rule. Not what we're looking for. Path nodes. No. So schema field maybe? Utilities. Deep signals. Controls. API. Validators. That's what we're looking for. We've got an email validator. We've got a max length, a min length, pattern, required, standard schema, or utils. So let's take a look at, for example, let's just take a look at our max. So max takes in a path, a max value, and then the config, the base validator config. And the path is the field path that we're getting. And then we're just using things to value, right? So the context.state.property. If max equals undefined or number is not a number, so it looks like right now there are a few that we can use: max, max length, min, and a min length, and then a pattern. It looks like pattern will have to be what we want to use here instead of number. And what we can do is we can just say pattern and import that. And if we take a look at how they use the pattern, we can use, just a regex pattern here. So we can just say, hey, pattern on form.id, and then here we can just go, it has to be a digit, and there needs to be at least one. And I must have imported pattern from the wrong place. Nope, pattern came from the right place. Why is it not liking form.id? What doesn't it like about form.id here? Oh. So I can't make this a number yet. It has to be a string. It's actually determined from. Oh, interesting. So wait, if I've said what have I done here? Oh, wait. So form.id invalid. The signal indicate, oh, it's a signal. That's my problem. This is a signal. There we go. What I don't understand is we've got errors here, and that was a good call. Now we don't have to create this let variable. We can rely on the invalid field. There's an interesting gap here, because this is a type number. In our schema, we said it's required. We said give it a min and a max value. But our won't work. Because pattern relies on this being a string. So this type child so it knows that this is a number from the type. Fascinating. I'm curious how you would. I mean, the reality is what you would do is you would make this type equals number. And then the browser would give you some help here too. Right now I can't enter in test because it's not a number and it's going to tell me, hey, that's wrong. And that's probably the way to do it. Let's go to Daisy and just look at like numeric inputs. See validator component for more detail. So validator hints. That's nice. That actually. So by adding validator, then a validator hint, it will handle a lot of this stuff for you. That's nice. We might come back to validators. Trying to save passwords for me because I was using a password field. That's hilarious. Let's use these instead. Input small and medium and large. So what we can do here is instead of doing this with 12, we can go to input dash small. And here we can go input medium. And here we can go to input dash extra large. That should help a bit with what we've got going on. Whoa. Wait, what? What did I do wrong here? Let's go back to Daisy. Oh, it's input dash MD, input dash LG. And input dash SM. I did do input dash SM. That might be the height, right? Yeah, it is. Ah, those don't do what I thought they did. So that's not what we're looking for. We want like a width dash. It's probably going to be a width dash 20 now. And these aren't doing anything for us. There we go. Go back to that. And that should clean things up a bit for us. Yeah, so now we can go 99.99. This can probably come back a bit. Oh, that's fascinating. So Angular doesn't allow the number to go over that value with the scrolling. So it sets a max value on the input with that. Is it possible to do all fields required, or do I need to add a validator to each field? Looks like required doesn't work on type number. Specified value, not a number, cannot be parsed or is out of range. No, now it works for me. It was working for me. I mean, we're still. This is still like a pre-release, right? So there might be bugs, but you know, if I go -1, it won't actually let me enter a negative value. Oh, now it does. And the cool thing about that is I can't go below. So it is setting a min and a max value for me. I want to see that. If we take a look here, this input, look at that. Look at that. So it automatically adds the min and the max for you. So by setting up that schema, yeah, that's what I'm curious about too, Michael, is there might be some issues. So if I just clear this out, it seems to be working. But it automatically sets up the min and the max for you, meaning that this control directive is a lot more powerful than I had originally thought. Notice that all I've done is I've changed the type to number. If I change this back to text, we go back to our input and we inspect it. No, it's still adding that min and max, which is really cool. Unfortunately, we can't do like we can't do the validation here. This isn't in place, and it sounds like Michael is saying that too. Yeah. So for now, we're going to rely on the type number. And eventually we're going to move this into Zod, and Zod will be doing our validation for us. So we'll be calling an external validator that will be feeding stuff back into the form. But until we do that, for now, we're just going to use this validator. I love that the control directive, the schema is not just a simple schema. And to your question, Ole, I'm not sure. Like, I don't think the only thing I could think of is to make like required form, maybe. But that doesn't. I don't know that that's going to do anything for us. You know, we could try it and go here. And yeah, we don't have any errors here. So I'm not sure. Like if I look at the So form dot name and required form dot description. We're going to do a min length on form dot name of 3 is fine, and a min length on form dot description that 10 is fine, absolutely fine. And a lot of this stuff we're going to move out to Zod in the future, but for right now, if we clear this out, oh, interesting. Do I need to refresh? Oh, I'm like, wait, why isn't this working? It's not working because here are and here there we go. I was like, wait, what's going on? Why isn't this working? Well, it probably was working. Yeah. Yeah, those are all working. So we're in a good place now. One thing we could do is on this input here, we could add an @if form.name.invalid. And here we can go and take a look at, that's not what we want to take a look at. We want to take a look at this. We want to go to Daisy and we want to take a look at our field sets. So here, the P class equals label is what we want to do. And so we can go P class equals label. And here, and actually we don't even need this form.name.invalid. We could do a for loop here because they'll only exist. So we could go @for, and we could say error of form dot. Well, this is probably where we want to go. Like we could say @let. We could say name errors equals, and now we can say form.name.errors. And that needs to come off of that. So now we've got an array of validation errors. Now we can say for error of name errors. Right. What have I got wrong in my for? Yeah, I need to track it also. Track error dot we can track the error itself. It doesn't really matter. And here we can say error. I don't think error dot message, right? So we can track the error itself, and this should, if it works, give us a nice error message here. So if we take this out, no, it's not. If we inspect this, so we've got the, oh, look, we've got the, there's nothing here. For right now, let's just do error, boom, error dot message. And so now if we refresh this, we've got the error showing up, but we don't have the message on it. The add question thing not working. Yeah. So this error message here, we're getting the error. Let's do this error. Let's just do an error to JSON. Let's see what we get in our error and see what's actually there. So it's got the required, it's a kind required. So I think what we need to do is up here in our required for the form name, we can say name is required. Does that not work? Can I not provide a message to required? What does required take? Path and then a config object. Okay, so name. And here when error message, that's what we want. So the when probably gives us a way to do cross-field validation. So we can say that this is required when there's an ID or something like that. But really, we just want our message to be, please provide a name for your task. Boom. And then on our min length, we'll see what we get from that one. So here, when we wipe this out, yeah, there we go. So now we can turn around and we can go back to our error.message. Boom. And so please provide a name for your task. Awesome. And A, B. So we aren't getting an error message when it's too short. So the other thing we can do, and this is very similar to the way Zod works. So I'm very curious if we can use Zod as a schema. So here we can also provide a message. And our message is name must be at least 3 characters long. The other thing I want to do here is on this class, let's go text dash error. So now when when we enter this, yeah, please provide a name for your task. A, B, C. So one thing we have is that our form is changing shape. And that's not a good idea when you're using forms and things like that. So we should take a look at how to prevent our form from jumping around. But for right now, that's useful. So we can actually do the same thing down here. And what I do want to take a look at is so this is description errors. And the other thing we can do is we can take out this error piece here. But one of the things that I really want to take a look at is, can we programmatically build this stuff up? So is there a way that we can add helpers here? So we have the field set, and is there a way for us to build this in such a way that we don't have to add a whole bunch of boilerplate? So instead, what you would do is you would create your own input that would basically have the legend, the input, and things like that. And the input would probably come, I don't know. We need to think about how we can make this so that there's a whole bunch of boilerplate here. If we look between these two, right? We've got the legend, which you're going to want, but that could probably come in somehow. We've got the inputs, which you're going to want to expose. But then we've got these errors. And the errors, like, as far as I'm concerned, this and this are different. One thing that would be nice is to add, well, and this is probably going to have to be, I don't know, there's a lot here to think about. There's a lot here to think about, and there's a lot that we could probably do with validation fields and things like that that exist in HTML that would make this easier. But I think the next thing to do, and this is where things are going to get a little bit more, a little bit trickier. Is how do we, what I envision for this is one input. We want to make it much more advanced than this example. So the next steps, and this is where we'll go next week. Man, I've almost gone over by an hour. I'm glad I went and took that quick break because I wanted to get to this point. The next steps for next week. Get Zod to validate this piece. Once Zod has validated this piece, the next thing to do is to actually create a real to-do list. So one thing I would like to do is create an edit in place to-do list. where you can hit an edit button and then it will pop open the edit, and see how we can figure that out. The next thing from there to do would be, let's see if we can go even more crazy and add subtasks to our to-do list. And once we've got subtasks in place, let's see if we can add logic that says, hey, you can't complete, or if you complete a task, it completes all the subtasks for you. If you uncomplete a task, we'll have to think through that logic. But yeah, 3-hour stream. I know it's been a long one. But there was a lot to unpack here, a lot of really cool stuff here. And I want to get back into this, and I want to build a much more complicated, to-do list than your typical simple to-do list. And the first step I think that we need to get to is, let's get Zod validating our form, and let's get Zod adding errors to this. And then once we're there, the next step is to start digging into arrays and dependent validation and things like that. But I want to drive our validation through Zod, because there's another idea that I have, is that we can add something to the side where we could paste in tasks. So you could paste in a bunch of tasks. We can pretend like that's coming from a server or maybe an API integration or something like that. Zod will validate those tasks and then add them. So that's going to be the next piece that we want to take a look at. But thank you first to Michael for passing that stuff along. It makes it easier to, we would have spent, without the stuff that they put together for the AI, we would have spent a bunch more time in the Angular code, which is not a bad thing. And we will probably spend a bunch of time in the Angular code as we learn these signal forms. What I don't want to do is get too distracted by the styling. There's some stuff I want to do here to make the styling better, and maybe some ways to handle errors better. But once we're there, I don't want to get too distracted by that. I want to stay focused on what we should be doing, as we work through these forms, and specifically, how do we integrate something like Zod? I think this is going to be a big key piece, because we're getting out of reactive forms. And if we think about reactive forms, with reactive forms, we write a whole bunch of validators. What would be really, really cool is if we could use libraries that use the standard validation pattern and use those against the signal forms. And I think I read something about that recently, where they said, yeah, anything that uses a standard validation pattern will work. So this is the big next step, right? We dug through and we got a very, very, very simple signal form in place. It's probably one of the simplest signal forms you can build. The next step is, can we add some complexity with Zod? And then once we've got complexity with Zod, the next step is, can we remove some complexity with the errors? Can we make the errors more helpful? And then once we've got more helpful errors, then it gets into arrays and things like that. So I want to dig into this quite a bit. But thank you guys for coming along. Thank you guys for hanging out. It was a lot of fun figuring this out. I look forward to next week when we dig into the Zod stuff, and see how that goes. It was a lot of fun just writing some code today. Looking forward to